So now we're going to talk about solid connections versus diagonal connections. Essentially, we're moving this stone. So the question is if we should connect solidly, which is usually called the hante move in Japanese, which is the real move. Or should we talk about the tiger's mouth? So we're going to look at a lot of examples for these. So let's take a look. So in this case, we have two options, and I think it's very clear which the better option is for connection here. To protect this cutting point, if we were to play this is very clearly an empty triangle. It feels very inefficient. But
Yeah.
if we were to play here to make the tiger's mouth, this is a very nice connection. It has good follow-ups later. We can see that black will once again get a nice tiger's mouth, which has two protected cutting points. Whereas if
Yeah.
we were to play something like this, we have a cutting point that we need to protect.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very, some of these might be clear to you and some of them might not be.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some more examples. So when we have this infamous shape, we talk about this a lot in my double digit Q class. We can see now that white has attached to black. And so we look at the two options on how to connect, right? I think once again, it's very clear what we should do. If we were to play one, which is the tiger's mouth shape, white would then be able to Atari and put us into this empty triangle or the farmer's hat shape. But
Yeah.
this is very inefficient and not fun for black. I'd feel
Nope.
very bad if I
I
was
agree.
black in this case. So for black, if we were to play something like this, now we have a very solid connection. And if white was to play the same move, we don't have to respond in defense. We can
Right.
continue attacking.
Yeah.
Once again, this makes what looks like the farmer shape, but the difference is there's no empty triangles. Both triangles are filled, and now
Yeah.
white has two cutting points. And so
Yeah.
there's a huge difference between the two connections. So let's move on to the next one. So this is actually a Joseki, this attachment here.
Hmm.
And it's one that can be a lot of mistakes. This is a very common running battle we see all the time. Almost, I would say every Go game, there should be at least one or two running battles, if not more. And this is where it becomes very important to understand this. This is probably like the best example I can give in any shape class because I think this is where I see the most trouble with players. So we have so many options to go. Let's look at the two incorrect ones first. The first one that isn't as obvious, or I'll show the obvious one first. So there's two cutting points. And if
Hmm.
white was to cut here, it's very obvious black will connect. And
Yeah.
so now or white has many, many, many weaknesses. And black has no weaknesses. So this would be great shape for black and awful for white. I'd call this a thank you move if white played this way.
Okay.
Now, the other bad shape is actually this one. Now, normally we talk a lot about double hanes, right? Which is a good tetsuji. And normally it's good if you can get away with it. That's how I usually end up wording it. But in this case, it's actually really bad because once black Atari's here,
Hmm.
we see that white ends up in the empty triangle shape or the
Yeah.
farmer's hat shape, right?
Yeah.
So once black pushes forward,
Hmm.
now there's a ladder problem. So maybe even whether white connects or not, we can see black kind of got the best exchanges out of this.
Hmm.
So I'll continue this just a little further. In the example, it also showed white now leaving this area to try and break up black because black's making a lot. So now
Yeah.
black has two ways to go. So B is incorrect. If we're playing B, this is kind of trying to use our thickness to make territory. This is awful because now we see that white kind of settles fairly easy. Black barely got anything. And yeah, it's just not how you use your thickness. We don't use our thickness to make territory, we use it to attack. Now, if we use our thickness to attack, once white makes its two-space, black can fix its problems. And now black doesn't have any weakness. So it's very, very powerful right now. And black is also gaining points and potential on this side while continuing a harassment against this group. This is how we should use our thickness. This is a very good example of that. So if we go back, this all stems from if white plays here, because now we put white in bad shape. We threaten a ladder, and then we have thickness we can use to fight. Good example. Thank you. So now this was all because this is a bad move. So instead, when we come into this fight, we see that there's one option that we didn't cover, right? Which is this one. And I think it's very clear once we Atari here, black has to come back. And now black is in bad shape. This is the empty triangle shape. So once again, I really thought this was like one of the best examples I've seen out of any of the examples we've gone over in this whole, 4-part series. Because this one is so clear cut and like beautiful, like seeing how it puts them into bad shape and puts us into good shape. So finally, we'll end it off with A and B. So I'll show you the bad example first. We're in a cross cut. Our example is usually I tell you guys not to Atari in the cross cut. In this case, if white Atari is in the cross cut, we help black become stronger, and now we're left with a weakness. So the fact that we have to come back to fix our weakness is a great exchange for black, because black has profited with a stone and has come out, making more territory and gets Sente. So giving away Sente like this is awful. Let's compare it to the other result. So if white plays this, yes, it threatens a ladder, and yes, the ladder is good for black, but this is still really good for white because white's playing on its weakness, right? Here is where the weakness is, and you have to fix it. So if you just fix it right away, then there's nothing to worry about. Black will have to come back to kill this stone, right? And then white gets to push. And so now white gets Sente. So now white can play something like this after. So even though we come to the same exact shape, the order is different and it's better for white because white gets Sente. So we don't want to make Ataris where we have to come back and fix it. When we're doing this, we're messing up, we're failing. This is what I was taught in the Youngensei League. I thought it was very interesting. Inseong has a lecture. I think it has Atari in the name, like when to use Ataris and when not to use Ataris. And this always stuck with me. The fact that if you have to come back to fix your weakness, then the Atari usually isn't worth playing. So this is the right move. And this is actually Joseki. This is the full Joseki from when black attaches here. So we see that we would Atari, put black in bad shape. Then we come back to fix our own weakness. And now once black fixes its cutting, stone, then we come out with this on top with white and Sente. So I hope this running battle variation sinks in with you guys because this is so fundamental. I just had a match with Eric Osman, who's 1Q, 1 down on OGS. And we were discussing it with 2 other 1Qs. And we were having big arguments on how we should continue our own double Hane. It's pretty much the exact situation. And it's just funny that even at 1Q, like in 1 Dan, we're still having troubles debating on this stuff. Of course, we shouldn't be, I guess, because we should be masters of the fundamentals at our level. But yeah, it was just funny how relevant it was. I was trying to explain to them about like if you have to come back, then you're failing. But I don't know. We all have our own weaknesses, no matter what level we're at. So anyway, it was just so important. So that's all I can really say. I'll move on to the next example. But yeah, I hope that resonates with you.